So Matt, for those who don't know you, who are you?
I wish I could answer that in just one word. No, it also depends on who I'm talking to, and the answer that I give. But
Well, like to the world.
yeah, I'm an artist. I almost architect, DJ. Sometimes I refer to myself as a retired DJ because I try not doing it that much anymore. Yeah, all around creative in a way. I'd say that's a good summary.
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to invite you today is basically you're one of the most creative people I know. I think people sometimes are creative in one certain area in life, like you have music artists who are pretty good at like creating music. Then you have like painters who are pretty good at painting. And then I think about you and you have like your artist business, like your art business on which you paint paintings for like people in their house in Mallorca. You, as you said, you were a DJ and producer. You're an architect, soon an architect. What is art to you? Like what does it mean to you?
And I think it's for me, it's like the most profound way of being human in a sense. No, it's I mean, to have a conscience to think is to create in a way, and in a way, all the different practices that we have in art are just a way of getting or expressing the same thing. No, it's just a means to an end. Essentially, it's like a different tool. But yeah, art is that. No, it's to generate something that comes from one's conscience or that is created new. Like I think that's what it boils down to in a way.
And do you think that everyone has the ability to create art?
I think everyone does. It's just in a different sense. I mean, some people use words, some people, use film. There's so many different ways. I mean, politicians are artists in a way of changing one's mind using their own words. Poets do it the same, writers do it in the same way. But I think for sure, if you're human in the sense, there's some creativity behind that, and art is maybe the word itself is misinterpreted sometimes. We refer to art and think of maybe visual art or fine arts, but I mean it's so much more than that. No,
Yeah, I agree. I've always thought of like business people also when they're very good at what they do,
certainly.
they have different and innovative ways to go at it. Often that's not thought about as art, but when you do something in a very particular way that no one really gets to understand how you're so good at it, it's art as well. So, example, this is not necessarily from the business world, but like an example of someone that to me is an artist. People wouldn't recognize them as so, are sportsmen, or sportswomen. I don't know. I think of Nadal. I think of Djokovic, Roger Federer. They're all artists of their craft, which is tennis. I think that's the case for many of the high achieving people in the world. But do you think average is art? So I don't think I'm an artist in tennis, and I've played for 17 years. In the same way that I don't think if I went now and I took a canvas and began painting, I don't think that would be art. Do you think there's a minimum required threshold for what qualifies as art?
So, I mean, I mentioned this kind of briefly, the idea of kind of creating anew. I think when you look at business people, or if you look at tennis or any other sports players, the reason why I think what you refer to as art in their craft is that they find new, innovative ways to play, or that they come up with solutions to problems, that exists, or in that sense, maybe like outsmart their opponent by using techniques that hadn't been used in that way, or kind of reassembling things that exist into a new way. I mean, I'm sure that you can give me better examples of that, but I think that's important, no? To kind of reinterpret the things that we already have, and kind of juggle the box, and then like assemble it and come up with different ways of putting things. Yeah.
Yeah. And with that said, what would be your favorite form of creative creation? Because you're super, I feel like, ambivalent.
Yeah.
You do your music, you do your art, you do the architecture thing. I think like you have plenty of projects which maybe we can delve into later on. What do you enjoy most?
I think it's not a very popular term to think of yourself as kind of what used to be kind of the Renaissance man, no? Like Da Vinci, who you do so many different things, and uh, I mean, I'm not a polymath in a way, but I do kind of resonate with the idea that there's this way of thinking that I mean it's very I don't know. It's very apparent in all the things that I do. I think it's most explicitly like sort of stated in kind of the practice of architecture. This kind of like way of thinking divergently, of using kind of a creative process to arrive to solutions that you otherwise don't. Uh, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, I think it just encompasses your approach to life, which is
yeah.
doing everything in a unique manner. But it doesn't necessarily answer my question of like hypothetical scenario. 5 years from now, Matt, he's either being a music producer and DJ,
Uh,
an artist that lives in Mallorca and sells art for a living, or an architect that like builds houses. And imagine that like in all of those scenarios, you're like in the top of the hierarchy for any of those. Which would you choose if you had to go for one alone?
I think that's the issue that I've been facing kind of all my life. That um, it's a fact for me that they kind of feed each other. No, like I, music informs what I do in art, and vice versa. Kind of in many ways. There's also things that I can express in the art that I can't express in the music. There's, I mean, even collaborations with people that I find interesting as personas or as artists in a way. That are musicians but not artists, so there's so many different aspects that kind of support that idea, or a reason why I'm like all these different things and can't let go of any of them, however hard I try. Um, for sure, kind of what I connect uh, most with, I suppose, is definitely kind of the visual arts thing. Um, is something that I had been doing and had been good at for a very long time. Kind of not in class actually. My art teachers were always very disappointed with me. As a
How
matter of
come?
fact. No, I was just not very good at like doing what they asked, or like drawing things in a literal sense. Like I don't know, if they asked us to paint the landscape of this and that, I wasn't the best in the class. Um, and it's funny because I do bring that up sometimes when I go back to my high school to like teach kids about like this what we're talking about right now, this music, art, and kind of how they intertwine. Um, and I mentioned that, and they resonate with that a lot. But so again, like I can't sort of settle for one. They help inform each other. It's kind of like when you're cooking. You need oil to make your eggs. You can't just only have eggs.
Yeah, it's like
It's kind of
asking a chef if you would rather just cook starters or
yeah.
desserts or entries
It's
the
an
rest of
ensemble.
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. Makes sense.
Uh,
Makes sense. Mm. And now you were very artsy since you were a kid. I remember. I mean, we have friends in common from when we were from our past lives as well. So
Right.
I've heard about them. I've heard about like how you've been DJing since you're young, and now you're telling me about how you were also very into the visual arts side of things when you were a kid. How did you come into the decision of like studying architecture?
It's almost like a calling. Like I don't know. I remember very much in my college applications to some great universities that I passed the rounds. I got the interviews, and then these questions were asked, or like, which architects do you respect the most, or like, what about them, and whatnot. And I wasn't sure how to answer that because it's kind of like I knew from a young age that I was fascinated by space and the built environment. And I mean, architecture is so many things. Like it's memory, it's psychology, it's health, it's sickness, it's age, I mean, it's everything. It's kind of space in a way. It's where things happen. And it's put as kind of the most sort of respected art and the most profound way of expressing art in a way. Um, so it's also the only one that you need a degree for realistically, you know. So uh, it's I don't know. I just always knew it in a way. Yeah,
Yeah,
fair. It's also a profession in a way. You know, you make everyone around you happy that you're studying something serious, um, and you're still following something that is creative in a way. So I think there's a lot of reasons behind it. Yeah.
yeah. And you said something very interesting that you began speaking about, like how architectures help, like it because it's something that inhabits our daily lives. I'm gonna put you in the spot here because maybe it's difficult to come up with these things like now. But I remember when I was younger, my brother in university took a class that was like the art of a home or something like
Mhm.
that, like super weird name in university. And he was telling me like when we trip, like when we literally trip going up the stairs, more often than not, it's not our fault, but it's the fault of the architecture that made those stairs because you kind of they made one of the stairs in the staircase maybe like 1 centimeter taller than the other ones, and that makes for you to like your brain automatically like knows how high it needs to go in every step, and then you just trip because one of them is like slightly taller, you know, or like slightly shorter. um where else is architecture relevant in our daily lives
I mean,
that it's evident, you know?
to answer this, to go directly with that, I mean, there's obviously the Código Técnico in Spain, and there's equivalents around the world which define like this is how high and a low stair should be, and they should because there's something natural about repetition, like our previous like steps inform the next step that we take. It kind of should come naturally, and that shouldn't happen. There is sort of a misalignment very much and very often about the actual construction versus what is planned. I think it's an architect's duty, of course, to supervise that and to make sure it corresponds. There's safety on when it's built and the result of it. Um, and but when I refer to kind of the health aspect, it's obviously it comes down to like institutions, hospitals, like the way that you know patients are treated, the speed at which, but also kind of this idea of sick building syndrome. That's a real thing. Like uh, natural light, ventilation. There's so many things that contribute kind of to the well-being of you as a person living or working or you know being active in a space that is often neglected but is very much informed by architecture.
Yeah.
So that's kind of more what I refer to that. Um, Architecture is, I mean, in and around us. I mean, everything that we understand and we know, the way that we see the world is through architecture in, you know, the vastest sense.
I really resonate with what you said there of like lighting in the space you are and ventilation and
Mm.
so on. Because yeah, we live in Madrid. Madrid's a city on which I think they're pretty strict with like what you can do within the confines of like the center of the city. Meaning like buildings that were built in the past cannot be thrown down. Uh, the front of the building has to remain the same in order to like keep the integrity of like the street and whatnot, which is amazing. I think it makes it for a beautiful city visually, but it is inconvenient in my opinion because of what you said. Nowadays, like the amount of people is growing. Ideally, we would be more of a like the city would probably be more vertical than horizontal. Um, so what ends up happening is like there's people like in the bajos, which is like for those who don't understand Spanish or have never been to Spain, a bajo is like
The ground
the
floor.
ground floor,
Yeah.
which was never really meant for an apartment to be there, because there's no light. Light doesn't reach there. They're like repurposing them in order to have a place like for people to inhabit.
There's so much I can tell you about this already, like the way you're delving into. In fact, it's really weird because kind of before the elevator, this is such an incredible accomplishment. Is the kind of lower couple apartments were for the rich because you didn't have to walk up all the stairs. The top apartments are the hottest in the summer, coldest in the winter. Now it's shifted. You know, everyone wants to be on the rooftop. Everyone wants to have the most access to natural light. So that's definitely a factor. You also delved into kind of the housing issue, which also links to adaptive reuse, which is basically what you said, like demolishing and keeping the facade and whatnot. It is important to keep the facade, but sort of renovating to allow more light, more air, and better quality of life within is not only about keeping the facade. It's really poorly interpreted, that being kind of like renovation, because now the guts of the building is uh, the f- the thing that we should keep as well and be able to kind of build around. Because if you strip everything but the facade, you kind of lose the entire building. It's super bad for in every sense.
But
And we do have to build vertically, of course. The issue is if we're trying to make better houses that are, you know, more sustainable, have access to light, amenities, air, all of these things, we end up with these kind of Ferraris of buildings that are also kind of uh, no one can pay them. No average person can afford these houses anymore. That's why we're driving up the housing issue again. So there's a bunch of these things like rising populations in cities, what you mentioned, but also this construction isn't efficient for the average citizen anymore. There's so many things we can dive into, of course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There, what you just said is like, what I find interesting is like the idea of we need to keep not only the facade of the building, but also the interior. That's counterintuitive to me because I think older apartment buildings, not only in Madrid, but probably around the world, aren't they built with different architectural perspectives than is ideal to build nowadays?
In what sense? What do you mean exactly?
Yeah, like access to light. So um, I find apartments in Madrid or older apartments have smaller windows. Probably reason for that being is that back in the day, insulation from the outside world was not as advanced as it is nowadays. Therefore, we didn't want a lot of sound coming from the outside. Probably bigger windows meant uh, colder a colder apartment during the winter months, and then more sound coming in and whatnot. Nowadays, many of those issues are solved, meaning if you were to build the ideal apartment or the ideal apartment building in the 21st century, it would look very different than it was 200, 300, 500 years ago. And not only like looks wise, because I think looks wise, as I said, older cities are more beautiful, like older looking cities are more beautiful, more often than not. Um, but just like functionality wise.
Sure. I mean, again, what is the reason you would strip a building anyway? Why would you renovate it?
Isn't it like, I don't know, electricity probably relevant, pipes, like water pipes. And all of those things are likely, and you know about this better than I do, likely harder to replace if you don't just like strip it all down. Like if you begin like doing it little by little, like meter by meter, it would take you forever.
Sure. I mean,
Those are two of the reasons. And then after that, you have a ton more that are just like, it's hard to retrofit an elevator. Um, I don't know. You probably know better reasons than I do. Why do they do it?
I mean, there's obviously the kind of item of real estate to boost the value of the property to either create more or larger sort of areas for the apartments, more tenants, to improve the quality, meaning you can charge higher rents. So there's kind of the economic incentive. If of course things are broken and in desperate it needs to be kind of fixed, then we have to do that. But the kind of idea, the most important thing that I believe that we have to keep is the structure, and we have to learn and be smart about how we get to kind of inhabit that structure anew. So it's the slabs, it's the walls. And if we keep that, then sort of the cost, the environmental impact, they're so much reduced, and we have to work around that. And you get these moments that are also beautiful. I mean, you get to keep the beauty of the old structure. I mean, you have it in your own home, like these beautiful wooden, elements everywhere.
I'll
These
attach a
windows.
picture.
Yeah, yeah. If you're smart about it, you can create moments that otherwise you would have lost and you would have just demolished. So it has like an aesthetic reasoning as well, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and people are just lazy. People wanna make things happen fast. So we don't take the time to really. I mean, that's obviously like the romantic, like architectural gesture.
Of
Uh,
someone
you
studying
know,
uni still.
of course, there's a, I mean, whole pragmatic reason. There's always the fact that it is possible that you can't salvage the structure, and there is benefits to doing it new. But in that case, I think it's super important to build kind of adaptive and modular. So you don't know what, like you're everything that you do as an architect, you're always projecting into the future. You're not building, oh, you build for today, but what you're going to be building is going to be built in the future and going to be inhabited in the future, not today. So you don't know what the building is going to be used for. So building something that is able to be adapted by whoever is super, I mean, essential. Like if you can turn a mall into a residential unit easily, or the reverse, or an office.
Is that something that's considered
It's
usually?
it's usually not considered, and it's actually a huge issue in cities like New York, where like there's offices that they're trying to convert into residential units, or large residential units that are kind of uninhabited because there's so many like luxury estates there that they want to like make smaller in order to make sure that more people have access to housing, but also to actually rent it out. Um, so yeah, there's so many places that we see that could have been super beneficial. Yeah.
So now it's actually super interesting. Do you think modern architecture is trying to go deeper into that, like multi-purpose created buildings? Why do I ask? Because funnily, you're mentioning like offices in New York. The office I work in Madrid, uh, you've been in, beautiful office. And I was half joking, but half serious, speaking with some friends yesterday about it, which was like, give it 2 years and all of these are going to be apartments, because I don't want to like go into the AI. I think we have opposing views in the AI. Like, is AI going to take over many jobs? My opinion is yes. Your opinion is probably a bit different. Let's not go there. My joke to my friends was like, give it 3 years and this is going to be an apartment, because AI is going to take over. Not AI won't necessarily take over, but it's probably going to be more like less people working and leveraging it better. But yeah, all of that to say, are modern architects thinking, if we're going to build an office building, we might as well make it such that in the future it can be fitted to an apartment or to a shopping mall?
I think it's essential, and it's definitely becoming more of the discourse. In fact, my thesis project now is looking at um, which I think is much more pressing, and I think it's sort of more short term than like the AI issue. But the idea of the digital citizen, the digital nomad, if we're able to do everything online, then what do we need shops for? What do we need, offices for? Like, if everything you can do from the same space, like, how would the city look like? How would your life look like?
Yeah, because there's certain things you're definitely still going to have to be physically present for.
For what?
Like a surgical procedure.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so like,
But for simple like health issues, I'm sure that you can do that in a digital realm soon. I've actually seen like this happen in real life, like analyses, through the phone.
yeah, but let's say you need to do a blood exam. So like either there's few solutions to that. Either a human being comes in and draws the blood from your veins, or a robot to.
I've seen a startup actually that sends you a package that's super easy to use, and you send it off, and they do it for you. So it's like crazy. Like you see little hints of things that you're like, wow, like what is the reason that we still, do the things that we do, how we do them?
But yeah, no, that's definitely something interesting.
Yeah.
Thinking like, now that the world's becoming more and more a digital space, what is required physically?
Yeah.
What are the things that are going to continue to be needed in terms of, I mean, even you can even see it in like in everyday things like going to bars. I think it's going to be forever a thing. Mm. But like people nowadays meet other people online. And one of the main reasons we go to bars is for socializing. So if you're meeting friends through Instagram and meeting people of the opposite sex on dating apps, then eventually, like, we're potentially not going to need as many restaurants and bars, and that's super interesting. I had never
Yeah.
thought about it.
Yeah, it's that's my thesis writing actually, is about this. What you actually need then,
Do you think it's a process that cities have been going through and we just haven't, like, don't really think about it? Do you think it's something that, or do you think we're going to see a bigger shift now than ever before?
Sure. There's also there's always kind of like things happening in because of a product of what is happening to us in the sort of urban realm, without us controlling it. But I think we should be like active participants in understanding what the future is going to look like for us. And I think kind of the model of kind of autarkic systems, so basically making sure that everything around you is accessible, like you can easily go and get anything or do anything within like a small radius around where you live. And that is a model that has been existing forever. I mean, if you think of cities, they used to be kind of like these enclosures with a wall around them, to protect from the outside, but also to keep everything in this safe ecosystem where you had everything, and then you had farming, and you had kind of all the different programs inside. And I think obviously before the car that was essential. After that, people could go anywhere very very easily and quickly, and it wasn't necessary. It was safe to be somewhere else. It was since everything was so easily accessible, you could move around freely. But I think we're returning to this model, not because of this necessity of being close to each other, but because of the fact of convenience and consumption, and the fact it's nice to be able to go on a walk and go to your, I don't know, the cinema, and then have your grocery store there and this and that.
Yeah, I mean, but the convenience has always been a factor. Like, it's always been convenient to be close to your supermarket. So my question would be, why now and why not before? Is it like, are these cities, 15-minute cities, actually possible?
Absolutely.
Or are they a utopia?
We see it happen in cities already, and Paris is really enforcing it, and is kind of a reaction to the suburb, which people have realized they don't work as well as we might have liked. The amount of people coming to cities is unprecedented because of work opportunities, because of this and that. So, thinking about this model, thinking about not having to have everyone have a car, which is, in many ways inconvenient. It makes everything sprawl. Everyone wants to be close together for this exact reason. So I think it's not utopia. I think it's very, very real. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, stepping a little bit away from architecture,
Yeah.
I wanted to know, so complete changes topics actually. What's the creative process of writing a song?
Um, it's actually
And also, maybe to keep it relatively tight to
Yeah.
architecture, is it at all related to how you go about making a building?
There's elements for sure. It has to do with rhythm and repetition. Everything boils down kind of to like a mathematical formula, no? There's a system already that you can work inside or outside of, but there's a system, and things that you do within that system is kind of where the miracles happen. You know, especially I produce house, so you have certain elements. You have a bass rhythm, which is a kick, a clap, and a hi hat, and then you build a bass line around that. You build more sort of percussion drums around that. You build kind of melodies and harmonies and chords within that, and you tell a story. Now, so there's room for creativity within boundaries, and I think that's where kind of uh, there's the mirror, you know. It's
And do you think, is there a rule or does everyone follow a different path? Meaning, I would assume some people start, I would assume, and I could be wrong, some people start writing the melody first and then they go afterwards with the uh, bass and the lyrics. I would assume some people would start first with a verse. Maybe they're more poetic and they start with a few letters, a few words that just mean something to them, and then they write the song around them. And I would assume some people just like maybe the groovy people, I don't know, start writing like the rhythm and like the bass and whatnot, and then they write the melody around that.
and everyone has their own creative process. No, even it depends on the song that I'm making. You know, sometimes like a melody pops into your head and you start playing with that, and then you layer it. Or sometimes you're not very inspired, so you just start with like, again, the simple rule of the drums, and then you start building, and things come, and then you pick up a sound, or you know you do something, or you find something on, you know, a sample or everything, and you rearrange it, and then kind of the song comes to life. Yeah.
Okay, so we spoke about architecture, how we spoke about your creative process of writing a song, how it shifts. It's something that I feel from the outside you're not doing as much anymore. Mm, maybe the producing part, yes, I'm not entirely sure, but definitely the DJing is something that you've kind of stepped away from. You said it a few minutes ago in the start of the podcast. Why is that?
It was very difficult to maintain in the long run. I started producing when with my dreams, you know, when I was 11, and I started doing events and parties, and every time I was so exhilarated when I was invited to play. When I came to uni, it really like picked up. I did my own events that went really well. You know, I played, you know, incredible clubs, festivals. Then I played in other countries across the world. You know, like really awesome things, and it really excited me. But when I came back to Madrid, I got so deep into it. I played even 5 times a week. Um, it was so unsustainable, especially with all the other things I wanted to do. That yeah, imagine like I was if I had to play at 4 a.m. until 6 a.m. and I had class at 8 or 9, you know, it would kill me, it would consume me. And it was just unsustainable to do that so much. So I kind of cut down on it. I still do it once in a while. I do bigger events, and I play a little bit in Madrid here and there, but I'm also not like financially dependent on it anymore, so I don't need to, and I can do it when I want to. You
And do you think it's a matter of you stepped away from it because you wanted to, like, of course, you wanted to do other things? Of course, there you touched on, okay, if you had class at 8 or 9 a.m. and you had to play from 4 to 6, it was super tough, which makes sense, especially when you do that 3 or 4 times a week. Um, but my question is like, is it because you have other priorities right now?
Absolutely.
Because I do think that if you think about the DJing lifestyle, not wanting to downplay it as something simple, super tough. Also, I think you're in a very tough environment of like alcohol, drugs. The people that manage all of these events tend to, or some I'm sure, are super nice and friendly. Some others, the reason why they reached the level of respect in that world is like a particular and specific one, you know. Um, but do you think if you would have like gone all in into DJing, maybe even like quit university, it would have been more viable?
Man, it's a dark place. Like you don't realize that as a kid, you know? You don't realize that until you're there, like how dark of an industry it is. I mean, these people who dedicate their lives quite literally to the nightlife scene, who have been doing this for like 30 years, 20 years, 30 years. They and do this every night, you know, like imagine like how your life starts looking like. It's not the type of person I am, and it's not the type of person I envision myself to be. Um, and for the people around me as well, you know. So that's also definitely part of why I kind of stepped away. Uh, I think like it still has my heart. I still want to do it all the time, but yeah, you definitely touched on part like why, uh, at least kind of on small scale, um, like nightlife scene. I'm really happy. Like I'm taking my
Taking a
distance
step
from
back.
that. Yeah.
Makes sense. And now looking to the future, like what are you thinking about the rest of the next following years of your life? What do you want to do?
I mean, almost certainly, I will be finishing my master's still for architecture because you needed to sign, you know, the papers. So if you want to build a skyscraper, you can call me in a year. So that's important. I will be sort of pursuing more the art side of things as well, kind of building some more exhibitions and galleries. Hopefully, some in Madrid too. And the issue is, of course, I work in Mallorca and then, you know, I live here. So I rarely get to go and work on it. I should dedicate more time to that. Um, Obviously, from the music side, I'm still going to be producing a lot. I still have my dreams of signing to specific record labels and you know achieving my goals in that. It's just something that you know I will always be driven by. And then obviously on the managerial side, helping other people. I have this record label that we started 5 years ago almost, and it's really picking up now. In certain genres, we're like in the top 50 worldwide in record labels. There's people begging us to, with incredible songs to get signed. So it's pretty excited to seeing what is happening and how I can help other people, you know, achieve their dreams as well. So um, yeah, that's going to take up a big chunk of my life too.
That's sick. Thanks, man. Where can people keep up with you? Like any channel that you want people to check your work out?
For sure, Instagram is always the best. Yeah, there you can always DM me and text me with whatever questions or proposals. So that's a good one. MTSDB.
SDB.
Yeah,
Instagram at MTSDB.
that's
Okay.
right.
Thank you, Mats.
Cheers, man.
It was nice to have you.